Hello everyone and welcome to the next installment of the Xiangqi opening theory of same direction cannons, rank chariot versus foul chariot. Before we continue, I would like to wish all a happy Chinese New Year. And as usual, the material for this book is based on the opening trilogy from Master Wenqing and Grandmaster Zhang, whom I obtained permission from. So without further ado, let us begin this week's board. Same direction cannons, rank chariot versus foul chariot, cross cross palace rib chariot, riverbank chariot. Both horses are both colors will develop all the horses as proper horses. And for this board, the topic of discussion would be C8+2. Now, this is a commonly used tactic in similar situations, especially when both horses have been developed as proper horses and neither pawns have been advanced. By advancing the cannon to the riverbank, the cannon will now threaten to attack both horses if need be. Now this is one of commonly used methods of playing. Now there were two counters that were discussed. The first would be C2+2, whereby black will retaliate in a similar fashion, and the other would be to play P3+1. So for variation A, black would also play C2+2 in retaliation. So red will usually choose to attack this horse, and black would also do likewise. Now the cannons will offset each other, and in variation A, red would now continue to play R6+4, and this is one of the reasons why C8 equals to 3 was played instead of C equals to 7, because the red chariot will be able to apply some pressure here. Now it is advisable for black to consolidate his defense with A6+5, as after consolidating his defense, he will be prepared to play P5+1 to charge the pawn forward, develop the horses from the central file. Now, it would not be a good idea for black to try to gain material with R8+2, because red would take the opportunity to develop his other chariot, and although it would seem that red would now gain material, black would now gain material, red would simply counter with C3+2 and a check. Now because of the check, black would be forced to move the advisor, and red will capture the black chariot. So although black will continue to capture the red horse, this generally speaking would be to red's huge advantage, because not only has an elephant been captured, the chariot will now be prepared to attack the defenseless horse over here, and black's chariot had not been developed at all. So losing a chariot so early in the opening phase is usually not advisable, and black would have to pay for his pay dearly in this situation. So back to the board, A6+5 is advised, and it is advised for red to play R9 equals to 8 to develop his left chariot, because in same direction cannon opening systems, the development of the chariot will usually dictate the pace of the game. Now, would it be a good idea to play C3 equals to 9? Now, usually black would counter with R3+1. R1+2 would not be a good idea, because now red would push the pawn forward. If the cannon captured, red will lose the chariot. So usually black will have to move his cannon to the central file, and red will now move his cannon again. So this is one of the advantages of playing the riverbank cannon. Its versatility is tremendous, and red could attack any one of the files where the black major pieces are. So red would have the advantage in this situation. So R1 equals to 2 is not advisable, and instead E3+1 will be advised, because now black will still be threatening to capture the horse. So let's say P3+1 played, 7+5, and in this situation, red would not have gained anything, because black would be able to trade pawns and control this file. So and if red pushed the central pawn forward, because the pawn had been pushed, black could play c5 equals to 6, where it would be protected by the horse. So red would not have gained anything for his efforts, and c3 equals to 9 is not advisable. That is why a more clear-cut method would be to play r9 equals to 8. So as mentioned earlier, black would now start his attack on the central file. And at this point in time, red would capture the pawn. Now, in the book, c7 equals to 6 was advised, because black was now prepared to sacrifice his elephant to try to seek a counter-attack. Now, if r8 minus 1, red would just simply go for a trade of material, say, after trading cannons. The horse will now be freed, and it will be red who will be counter-sacrificing material, trying to threaten the black horse over here. But because the pawn had been pushed, red could now advance his horse for attack. As can be seen, red's attack will now be fast and furious. He will be prepared to go for the elbow horse attack with h6 plus 8, followed by h8 plus 7. So red would have the advantage firmly in hand. So that is why threatening the cannon would not be a good idea. So p3 plus 1 will be played, whereby red will now have an open line for developing this horse. Now black would try to gain some compensation with this attack. Red will protect the cannon in this manner, the horse in this manner, and black would choose to develop his chariot in this fashion, showing away dislodging the black cannon, threatening the chariot, again threatening the chariot, and at this point in time, black would offer a trade of chariots. Now the red cannon has thus been still have an ominous presence on the board. So black would try his best to get rid of this cannon. Now at this point in time, r1 equals to 4 was suggested. e7 plus 9 was not a good idea, because red would push the central pawn forward and prepare to gain material. Once the pawn was pushed forward, if black captured, cannon would capture it, and red would gain material. Neither would r8 plus 1 be a good idea, because red would simply capture the elephant and sacrifice itself to capture the advisor. And as can be seen, red sacrifices material to mount an attack. Now it will be red's cannon trading for one advisor and one elephant. But after doing so, red will be able to push the pawn forward, and he'll start attacking. So if, let's say, e5 plus 7 were played, red could deliver a check and capture the horse, and there will be many more possibilities in the ensuing situation. But the lack of black defense would be a worrying issue for black, and as can be seen, the black chariot would be underdeveloped. So that is why r8 minus 1 to threaten the cannon would not be a good idea, but neither would e7 plus 9 be. So r1 plus 4 would be the advocated move. Red will simply trade chariots, and after trading chariots, red will move his remaining chariot to the riverbank, and red would have an advantage in this situation. The cannon will still be threatening the elephant and also the pawn. and there's always the possibility of p3 plus 1. So this would be variation A, whereby black would play c2 plus 2 to counter red's c8 plus 2, a riverbank cannon countering a riverbank cannon. Now in variation B, black would push p3 plus 1 to prevent red from playing c8 equals to 7. And if c8 equals to 3, black could move his cannon to the external rib file and prevent the development of this chariot. Now there will be many other possibilities possible. Now r6 plus 5 will be red's method of attacking. Again, moving the advisor to consolidate the defense would appear to be foolish, but in fact it was a brilliant move, which will be seen shortly. Now, would it be a good idea for black to play c5 equals to 6 to dislodge his central cannon and attempt to attack with c6 plus 5? The answer will be no, because of as mentioned earlier in my videos on the sandwich horse defense formation, red would not would just simply take the chance to attack this horse, which would be the congenital weakness in black's formation, and forcing it to retreat. And afterwards, red will now offer to trade material. Now, let's say the moves ended here in the book, but let's say after capturing material, no matter how black defended, red will be prepared to play c3 equals to 5 as a very powerful attack. So that is why dislodging the cannon would not be a good idea, because black's center would be greatly weakened and the cannon will block the horse. So a4 plus 5 would be advised, and red would continue his attack with this very steady move. Now, although black had since black had played a4 plus 5, could red have attacked with c8 equals to 3 instead? After all, there was a threat of a smothered cannon checkmate. The answer would be no, because since the cannon moved away, there was no threat of a cannon pin. Black could simply jump his horse to the river, and once the horse reached the riverbank, it will now become a threat that red cannot ignore. Let's say if red continued with r9 equals to 8, black will counter with c2 equals to 3, threatening to attack this horse immediately. So both the red horses are sluggish, and red's attack will lack any powerful punch. And conversely, black will actually start counter-attacking. Hence, c8 equals to 3 is not advised. So finally, it would be advised for black to move his horse to safety with this this seemingly reluctant move. Red would continue with p3 plus 1. Black would reorganize his formation, and it will become a standoff. Now, although this would be a relatively even situation, although black's position was very awkward, black would be prepared to play r1 equals to 3 to trade chariots. And the effect of this cannon would be greatly decreased. So that is why this would be the better variation as suggested by the authors to play in this position. Now, these are the two short variations for this board. So a short recap. I'll do this from black's point of view. Same direction cannons, ranked versus file chariot, the cross palace chariot, riverbank chariot, and in this board c8 plus 2 was used by red to attack. Two major variations, variation A, c2 plus 2, variation B, p3 plus 1. Now c2 plus 2, black counters Red's riverbank cannon with a riverbank cannon of its own. These two cannons will counter each other and negate any possible influences that the other cannon might have. So C8 equals to 3, and Red will continue with R6 plus 4, A6 plus 5 is advocated again for defense. R9 equals to 8. Black will start to attack from the central file, and the issue of this cannon will become a major threat because Black had moved his cannon away. So after training material, Black decided to trade Chariots, but again the ominous presence of this cannon would become a huge thorn in Black's backside. And Red would have the advantage. In variation B, P3 plus 1 was played. Red would attack, defend, retreat, and it will become a standoff for both colors. Now, a special note to mention, in the first variation, usually Black would adopt the same strategy, but from the way things would go, because Red would have the first move initiative, by copying Black's move, usually Red would have the eventual advantage because it would be impossible for Black to copy every move eventually. So I hope you've enjoyed this short video. If you like the work that I've been doing, please do give me a like and subscribe to my channel. And happy Chinese New Year.